You know, there's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father.
Man, this stuff rocks.
Hey there, this is Joey Vera from Armored Saint, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, aka the Bod Father, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today it's an honor and a huge privilege to welcome Joey Vera, bassist of Armored Saint. On October 23rd, on October 23rd, Armored Saint will release their 8th full-length album, Punching the Sky, via Metal Blade Records. Punching the Sky is Armored Saint's first album in 5 years. Also, they have some contributions on the album from Patrick D'Arcy and Guns N' Roses keyboardist Dizzy Reed, and some other cool stuff that's on this album, plus a first-time thing that we're going to talk about as well. So, Joey, welcome to the show, and how you doing?
I've been okay, hanging in there. Thank you for having me, and it's my pleasure to be here.
What have you been up to during this crazy pandemic other than talking and promoting and working on the new 8th full-length album, Punching the Sky, man? And how does it feel to be back after long 5 years, dude? You know, it's been a while.
Yeah, we seem to have fallen into this 5-year cycle lately. The last 3 records have been 5 years apart. We're stoked to be promoting the new record. We were pretty lucky coming off the Win Hands Down record. We actually did so much touring for that record, probably more than we've done in a very, very long time, if ever, maybe even ever, to be honest with you. But it became time to sort of like, okay, let's kind of stop taking offers to do tour dates and shows, and maybe it's time to start thinking about maybe making another record. So we, about 2.5 years ago, kind of decided to do that and say, okay, let's start, let's put the brakes on this and see what happens here. And so we did that, and we just, again, we kind of just started seeing how the writing was going to go. We started out slow and waited for it to snowball, but it's been a process that's been for a couple of years now, and we're glad that it's finally out. And luckily, we're busy promoting the record and making videos and stuff during this sort of lockdown that we're having right now. So we're hanging in there. We're good. Everybody's healthy, and nothing too crazy is going on, at least in the band's life or our personal lives. So we're doing pretty good right now. We're okay. I hope the same for everybody else. Oh,
yeah, for sure. And it's crazy for me to even say this, but it seems like now all bands are on an even platform. It's a crazy thing to think about it, but you got live streaming going on that bands are taking advantage of now, which should have been a long time ago as well. I think anything that you can add to your arsenal, the better. And I know a lot of you guys are road dogs. I understand that you got to tour and promote and all that stuff, but man, this is personally, has this took effect on you guys at all during this pandemic or no?
Well, I mean, we're having the same issues that a lot of artists and also technicians, people work in the industry that travel and put on shows and clubs and just all the way down the line. It's all affecting all of us in the same way. So we are not immune to that. We can't book shows. We can't do what we would normally do under these circumstances, and we don't know when it's going to open up. So we psychologically are, just like everyone else, just kind of keeping your fingers crossed and hoping for the best in the future. And, we're doing what we can, which is why we agreed to do a live stream ourselves on on October 10th. We're doing a live stream. It's going to feel alien and weird for us because we've never done a gig in an empty venue before without anybody in there. So it's going to be bizarre, but it's either that or nothing right now. And we would rather do this than do nothing. We want to make sure that we keep in contact with our fans, let the fans get a glimpse at least into what we're doing. So we're doing this show. We're going to play 4 brand new songs from the record, plus a full set of classics and stuff. And it's on October 10th, and the stream runs for an entire month. So it starts on October 10th and goes all the way to November 8th. And it's only $10 to come in and watch. So we're hoping people join us to do this. The website, if people are interested, is Armored Saint. That's one word, armoredsaint.veeps, VEEPS.com. And you can go there, sign up for an account. Doesn't cost you anything. And go get a ticket for $10 and watch it at home on your computer, on your big screen TV, crank up your audio system, and we're going to be rocking out like normal, and we hope people join us.
That's awesome. I'm glad to see bands doing that. Down just did one not long ago. So Dropkick Murphys kicked it all off a couple of months ago with their live stream. So it's awesome. I'm glad to see bands not being held back. They're making effort and pushing forward to get out there. So that's cool.
Yeah, and again, like the support from the fans is also a key part here, because we're all in this together. You know, none of us can go to shows. Not only can we not leave to go on tour, but you can't even leave your house to go to the local club anymore. So we're all in this together. So we're hoping we're hoping that it's people come out and check this out.
So Punching the Sky is Armored Saint's 8th full-length album, man. How's it feel creating music for over 4 decades as a band and to now have 8 albums in the Armored Saint library?
I mean, if you would have told me that 40 years ago that I'd still be here doing this and talking about it, I would have said, you're crazy. There's no way that I won't even, probably won't even be alive then, you know? But someone brought it up to me recently, a couple months ago, actually, about the length of time. And I was like, my God, you're right. I mean, it's, and you know, when I stop to think about it, I'm actually very humbled by it. I'm very grateful and thankful that we've been able to do this for this long and put records out and have fans, you know, give a shit about us and want to hear music from us 40 years on, you know, and that fact is completely mind-blowing. And again, super humbled by that, because that's all we really wanted to do from the get-go anyway. That's what we wanted to do at the very beginning, is connect with people and to have a career of making music and having people want to hear more music from us. And, you know, the fans have been able to have, you know, facilitated that for us. And it's been amazing for us to be able to do that. We also are very grateful to have a record label, Brian Slagle and Metal Blade Records. They've been supporters of this band forever, since the day one, basically. And to have that opportunity to make records, and at this point, on our own terms, and when we want to, and when we feel motivated to do it on our own time schedule. It's just, you can't ask for that. It's a gift that we don't take for granted. And we just feel like the luckiest people in the world for that.
And plus, you know, think about it. The music that you guys have created, it's still standing tall to this day with the longevity, of course, of how long you guys have lasted. That speaks volumes, man.
Yeah, I mean, we're, this is something that we had no idea we'd be even talking about this in 2020. You know, it's a trippy thing because we got back together in 1999 to do Revelation after being kind of broken up during the 90s when John joined Anthrax and I went off with Fates Warning, and we kind of came back together. And when we did, we said, look, guys, we have an opportunity here to make some music and do this for fun. At that time, John was still in Anthrax and I'm still in Fates Warning. And we said, we're not going to go back and pick up where we left off on Symbol of Salvation. And we're not going to try to reconquer the world. We're not going to try to, this isn't make or break anymore. Like, those days are over. We did that in our 20s and it didn't happen. So we're in a different stage now. We can make music on our own terms and when we want to, and we're going to do it because we love it for those reasons alone. So it's a trip because the internet was kind of just taking off still at that point. And through the years, we have the opportunities to go on tour, a lot of touring, especially overseas and to other territories, which we've never even dreamed of going to. And our fan base, we kind of were like this cult band during the 90s at that point. And our fan base has really just kind of been expanding and growing. And people have said to me in the last 10 years, what is going on with your band? You're having a renaissance. And I said, we are? This isn't something really, this isn't really like, it's something we were trying to do. I mean, artistically, musically and lyrically and the way that we present ourselves, those things are done by design. I have to admit, we are writing with a big sense of purpose and a sense of respect to our name and the name of the band. But we're certainly not trying to become a bigger band or spread ourselves across a wider range of audience. It certainly is nice, and it's great if that's happening. That's also a great gift, But it is interesting that it has come to this, and I think that someone said to me the other day, like, you guys feel like you're bigger than ever, and I thought, that's just a crazy thought to me. I don't know if that's really true. It's hard to compare yourself now to compare yourself and what the world was like in 1984, for instance, or 1986, or even 1992 when Symbol of Salvation came out. But I don't know if that's true or not. It's hard to, you got to factor in all these different things socially, and, the stock market and the cost of living was different. I don't know. There's so many things that play into it, but it is an interesting thing to look at when I look at our career, this idea that you just brought up.
Were you guys a little nervous at all releasing this album in the state that we're in right now? Because it's a lot of things have changed here, so releasing albums now. But were you guys a little nervous at all putting this out right now?
Not really, no. We did have a conversation, which was a very short conversation, sometime around April or May, when it came time to put the record on the schedule for release with Metal Blade. I had a conversation with the label, and then we came up with the idea, even internally, we talked about it as a group. Should we hold the release? Should we hold it back? See what happens with the state of the world and the state of everything, the music industry and everything. And we said, well, why are we going to do that? What's the real reason for that? And what can we gain by doing that? And it just didn't make any sense. It's like we had to say, look, we've been saying things are going to get better since March 16th. And by May 15th, things were not better. We did start to open up a little bit here, partially in California at least, but nothing was changing worldwide. Nothing was changing as far as opening up the industry, as far as the music business was concerned, as far as the touring industry and all that. So we said, what are we going to hold back for? People are still stuck at home. A lot of people are still working from home. You still can't go out in public, all these things. So we said, people need to hear music, and people know we've been making this record. We need to get it to them as soon as possible. So we said, the hell with that. Let's put it on the schedule. And so we were not afraid of or anything. Once we thought about it, it was like, no, this has to happen now. And it seems to be people that, since we released our first single, End of the Attention Span, and the video and everything, people are like, thank you so much for bringing me new music. It's like a breath of fresh air and a warm blanket. And I think people need this now. People need new music from all their favorite artists.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm anxious to see, with all this quarantine and everybody stuck in the house, what everybody's come up with, because I'm sure everybody's got a lot of stuff that they've written for newer stuff, coming down the pipe. So we shall see what's going to happen in the next little bit. So what's impressed or excited you the most about making the new album, Punching the Sky, if anything? Is there anything that sticks out the most for you, possibly, Joey?
Well, I'm really proud of the music that we wrote, and I'm really proud of the production that we ended up getting with all the engineers that helped collaborate with me on this, Josh Newell, Bill Montoya, and Jay Rustin, and the record label Metal Blade across the board has been so awesome with helping us get this first single out and the release of the record and the setup and everything, and just putting together the packaging with so many really cool different packages available. And, we're just so stoked on this new record. We felt like this when we did Win Hands Down too. But this is just, I think it feels even sweeter now because of the world that's been ripped from underneath us. I think that not only us, but everybody in the business, even fans alike, just the general public, when something has been taken away from you, you realize how much you really cherish those things, going out to see shows, going out to the theater, going to a movie, going to a restaurant, going to the beach or going to your friend's house, going to a family reunion, whatever, traveling, going on a plane overseas, whatever it is. When those things are taken away from you, you can really appreciate the actual value of what we normally completely think as being completely mundane and we take advantage of. We just take everything for granted. And that's a really the powerful, stark reminder of how we view each other and how we view, the state of our living existence and our lives and the people around us that are closest to us, So this is a powerful thing for us, releasing this record right now. It's a stark reminder about how damn lucky we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more, man, because 10, 15 minutes is not granted. So every time you could take advantage of, seeing your favorite band or seeing a loved one or seeing your best friend or just, talking to somebody on the phone, do it, because you just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the term life is short has taken on a whole different meaning right now.
Yes.
So it's true,
Would you say this album goes back to Armored Saints, kind of the roots, possibly? Does this album reflect that any possibly?
Well, it possibly, in a short way, it does. The way I tend to write is that I don't like to overthink things too much at all. John and I write the majority of the materials, so when we get into a headspace of beginning to write, we usually have very loose conversations. We don't like to talk too much about it, and we don't like to overanalyze it. We don't like to try too hard, and we don't like to premeditate too many things. So these conversations are quick and short. But other than that, I do have out of the corner of my eye, I don't lose sight of where we come from. I don't lose sight of our origins, the beginnings of the band, be it the club days up until, Symbol of Salvation. I think that set a certain precedent to how our band is perceived by the world and by the fans, and I certainly never lose sight of that, okay? But I want to honor that, is what I guess is what I want to say. But having said that, I don't want to repeat myself either. I don't want to just rely on that. I don't want to live there. I don't want to repeat myself. I can certainly be inspired by it, but I just don't want to overtly rely and be lazy and repeat something that we've done in the past. So on my other foot, I try to straddle this thing where I want to have best of both worlds. I love modern music. I love things that that are influence me or inspire me, that I see around me nowadays, and I want to be able to present Armored Saints music in a way where I'm kind of doing both of those things. So I guess to partially answer your question is that, you know, in some small way, it does have something to do with our past and where we come from. But in another way, I'm always trying to push it as a songwriter, and I want to be challenging to our listeners, and I want to be challenging to myself and to John as songwriters. And what can we do to make this really interesting and cool, but also be kind of have a small foothold in our classic origins, you know? So a lot of things play into that. It's not just where our influences were, but I'm pulling stuff from way back, like stuff we grew up on, early UFO and Thin Lizzy and Queen, but also like Earth, Wind and Fire and like Ohio Players and, you know, R&B. John and myself are big R&B fans. And a little bit later, like I love aesthetically, I love bands that are more in the last 20 years, bands like Opeth and Catatonia. You know, I love a lot of stuff from like the Foo Fighters. So I like to pull all these influences together into one thing and present it in a way where it allows John to showcase his amazing voice. And this is really kind of and look, I only answer these things in this way because people want to know the process and like, where's your head at when you make music. And I don't really like to think about it and talk about it that much because it feels sterile to me and forced. But I'm forced to articulate myself in this way because people are interested. You want to know, like, well, you did like the questions you're asking me, you know, you want to know, you're intrigued about how this is working and how does it become a new record, you know? But I don't really have these thoughts and I don't have these explanations in my mind until we're in the interview stages. These are things I don't really think about and I don't really dwell on too much in the beginning process. I really have to let it be super natural and organic. And John and I, like I said, we don't really discuss things in too much detail because when you start to do that, it really starts to suck the life out of music and melodies and lyrics, and you can't beat it up. Like, I'm a firm believer that songs write themselves, and so I'm just a facilitator of that.
Are there any tracks standing out more to you than any right now on the album? I know it must change every time you listen to it. I know these are your guys' babies. I understand that, but do you have any that stick out for you possibly?
Sure. I mean, I have a soft spot for the opening track, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. I mean, mostly because it was one of the first songs that I wrote. It might have been the second song I wrote. And for me, it kind of set the ball rolling for the rest of the record. And so for me, for that reason, it has a soft spot for me. And not to mention, it's got one of the best choruses I think John and I have ever written. And some other special moments for me are the more kind of experimental and diverse songs like Lone Wolf and Fly in the Ointment. Those songs really, really, really fun to make and like just a joy to write and just exciting because they're slightly outside of our box and we get to put in some influences that we haven't done before, and present it in a way that it's not so alien, not so like, what the hell is that? I think people still will get it, and it still sounds like Armored Saint to me, but those three songs kind of stick out as special ones for sure.
Was there a song that you guys were working on that totally ended up sounding different or took a major turn possibly?
Well, there was one that didn't make the record, and that was actually the very first song we wrote, and no one will know about it because it didn't make the record, but it was a very long song. It was like, it was almost like a Freebird song. It went on forever. It was very long. And it has some amazing parts in it, but I just couldn't whittle it down. We tried so hard, and maybe we overtried, and I finally waved the white flag, and I said, John, let's let this go, and let's put it on the back burner. And we got into another headspace after Giants, and we got into this other direction kind of, and so we just went down the rabbit hole with that, and it snowballed, and everything that we wrote after that we felt like was great. There's a couple really that went through some metamorphoses that were very different from the beginning. Bark No Bite wasn't really very different, but it was a little different than it ended up being. It was a little bit more straightforward, kind of a groove rock song in the beginning. But ultimately, I wanted it to be a little more challenging. So we played with it, and now to me anyway, my impression is that it's got a little bit of a Faith No More thing to it, and also mixed in with a little bit of a Thin Lizzy vibe, from the kind of like the Thunder and Lightning era, which is one of my favorite all-time records. And so that went into a different phase, and it turned out much better than it was in the beginning, I felt. And really, that's kind of about it. Mostly things, like I said, most of these songs wrote themselves, and I just let them be, and and most of them I was pretty satisfied with.
Now, you produced the album, correct?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you also worked with Josh Newell and plus Jay Rustin, and you also worked with Bill Montoya. Working with these guys again, man, is this just a comfort thing for you guys to work with these folks? Do they get exactly what you're wanting to put on an album and engineer and master and all that stuff? Yeah.
We worked with those three on Win Hands Down. And when it came time to start making this record, I immediately wanted to go back to that same team to help me get to the end result. I knew that I didn't want it to sound exactly like the same record, but I also knew that those guys would not let me do that, and that they would add their own and bring their own interpretation to the new music I was writing. And me as a producer overseeing the production of it was also in charge of making sure that it wasn't. I didn't want to repeat ourselves with that, but I did want them to help me gather my thoughts, if you would. And each one of them are people that I enjoy their work as technicians, but I also like them personality-wise. We understand each other. We have, they know what I want, and we know how to communicate with each other. It's not a difficult thing. And I really enjoy working with people that I have this relationship with. Nothing wrong against trying different people you've never worked with. But by the same token, I wanted to work with people that I knew and trusted. So I go to them for their input as well. I rely on their expertise and their knowledge and their opinions, and this is why I work with them. So everybody brought their game, and it's a team effort all the way around, and they certainly are part of that team. So it's
now
great.
The band's own Gonzo Sandoval plays an American Indian flute on Never You Fret. This is the first for Armored Saint. Man, let's talk about that and how this ended up on the album.
Yeah, I had written the song, and I had this other flute in it that it actually comes in right after Gonzo's part, and had these voices in there. The whole song had this very ethnic feel to it. It felt worldly, if I can say that without annoying or insulting everybody. It just had this really cool vibe about it, and so I put these things in there that I had done on the demo. These voices are actually mine, and the flute part. And so when Gonzo heard the demo, he says, "I want to play the flute." He's been toying around with this Indian flute for several years. He plays drums with this other group sometimes or on occasion called Black Raven, and the main guy in that band is a flute player, and he writes all the music and everything. And he got kind of inspired by working with this guy to pick up the flute. So he came over one day and he says, "Yeah, I want to put down these flute parts." And I was like, "I don't know, man." And I was hesitant to do it, but I set up a mic and I go, "Yeah, let's see what happens," And he just noodled around for a few minutes, and I recorded some stuff, and I said, "Yeah, let me think about it." And I took it and edited it down, and the pitch and the tuning of the flute it didn't match the song, but I was able to manipulate it. And there was this one particular phrase that he did that I thought, well, that's a very short thing, could work as part of the introduction. And so I pitched it and detuned it, and then I made it fit with the song, and then put a little reverb on it, and there you go. And it worked. So I called him up and I go, "Yeah, man, I made it work." And he was like, "Yeah, man, thanks."
I thought this was cool. There were contributions from Patrick D'Arcy and Guns N' Roses keyboardist Dizzy Reed and Jacob Ayala, the son of a childhood friend who is a drum major in high school. Added some marching snare on one of the tracks. Let's talk about that a minute, because for someone to be in high school and to be put on one of the iconic bands out there like this, heavy metal bands, that's got to be awesome. How did this work into the song as well?
Yeah, I had written the part and written the song, and I programmed the drums. And when I programmed the drums, I had basically just a single snare drum playing the part, basically. And when we went in to record the record, we passed pre-production and stuff, and I went in to record the drums with Gonzo and Josh Newell, and he played the part on a single snare. And I said, I just thought of an idea. Like, wouldn't it be cool to have marching snare instead of the snare, the band, instead of your drum set snare, have a marching snare. And then we could build it. So it'd be like 1 snare drum, and then 4 snare drums, and then 15 snare drums, and then, 16 snare drums or whatever, and build it up. And we said, "Oh, that would be great." And I said, "Okay, let's put that idea on the back burner. We'll come back to that." So later on in production, we got the drums done, and we had to leave, and we did guitars and bass and vocals. And at the very end, we were starting to do these overdubs. That's when we did Gonzo's flute, and we did some other guitar parts and whatnot and vocals. And along the way, I was thinking, this marching snare drum idea, we got to try to accommodate this. And so I remembered that one of our good friends that we grew up with, John Ayala, we've known him since grade school, and his son is a drum major. He graduated high school this year, and he's been a drummer for several years, and he's on the drum major team and whatever, and he plays snare drum. And I go, "Dude, it would be perfect. Your son has a snare drum, and he's a player. So would he consider, bringing his snare drum over and helping us out by playing the part for us. And he asked him, and he said he would love to. So he came over, and he learned the part. He was a total pro. Like, he had the part down pat when he showed up. And he practiced, did his homework, and he was excited. I think he was really nervous because we just recorded in my house. I've got like an extra room in my house that's a pretty large room, actually, where I do a lot of recording and mixing and stuff. And so we did it here. It wasn't like this sterile environment of a recording studio, but still, like you said, he knew he was going to be playing on a record, and I think he was real quiet and nervous. But he totally nailed it. And him and Gonzo, he did some passes by himself, and him and Gonzo played together, and that was cool too. And so I just thought it was a cool thing to include somebody in our circle that we grew up with, and to have them part of the family. He is part of the family, and so it was a neat thing to include on the record. Yeah, sure. I mean, you get to play with iconic Armored Saint. I mean, I don't know if I could probably do it or not. I would say yeah, but saying and doing is two different things. Yeah, and we even paid him too. He's like, "You don't need to pay me." I'm like, "Nah, we're going to pay you. Like you spent time doing this, so we'll pay you a little bit of money." And I mean, it wasn't a lot, but it was like a gesture. Like, thanks for coming out. And thanks for doing the homework and being prepared, Cool. Yeah. Now he's on a heavy metal record. Next he's going to get more chicks. Man, you set him up for life, man. Yeah. Yeah. He just started college, too, this year. So cool. Wow. Yeah, you set him up. Yep. Any songs, Joey, you would like to add to the set list that has not ever been played live at a show possibly before? Well, yeah. Just thinking of songs we've never played live. Bandit Country from La Raza. Folks, you want to get out and pick up Armored Saint's 8th new full-length album, Punching the Sky, October 23rd via Metal Blade Records. You will not be disappointed. Get out and check these guys out. Pick up their older stuff as well. You will not be disappointed. I cannot say that enough. Joey, how can folks stay in touch with you guys, buy this new album, tour dates when all this gets back to normal, all kinds of stuff? How can they do that, sir? Well, armoredsaint.com. That's the easiest thing. You just type that in, and everything is there. We got news there, links to the label for products and CDs and LPs, special products we have available, packages that we got for Punching the Sky, and yeah, it's everything's there. It's one-stop place for info and merchandise and CDs and all that stuff. So. And before I let you go, good sir, would you care to do a promo for this show? I will do it. Hey there, this is Joey Vera from Armored Saint, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour. Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up. You only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Hour podcast. Get out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link, YouTube link, and please subscribe to our YouTube link and keep up with all the good stuff that we have. We're almost on every platform that's out there. Also pick up Armored Saint's 8th new full-length album, Punching the Sky, via Metal Blade Records, October 23rd. Again, you will not be disappointed. So, Joey, thank you guys for your music over the years. And keep doing what you're doing, man, and you're always welcome back on here. Thank you very much. It's much appreciated, and thank you for everyone for the support, and yourself included. So hope to see you all soon, and you all take care and be safe.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.